We must move on to the dismal science of economics, and one would think that one of the country's most prominent economists and politicians would believe that the electorate is rational and that as economic actors we all make sensible decisions based on the available data. Turns out we don't. Taller people get paid more, nothing wrong with that, I'm tall. Athletes who are Capricorns do better than Virgos, and not because of their star signs. And most people would take less now rather than more later, none of which makes much sense, wouldn't make much sense to Adam Smith, but can all be explained by a latter-day economist turned politician. Andrew Leigh is the Shadow Assistant Treasurer. He's written a book called The Economics of Just About Everything, and it's based on the premise that financial incentives influence most parts of life. He joins me now from Canberra. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Listen, doesn't the entire Federal Treasury, the entire executive of government, rely on the fact that we Australians are rational and will respond in predictable ways, Andrew, to your policy decisions?
Well, I think sometimes politicians forget the role that incentives can play. And one of my favourite stories of this is the introduction of the baby bonus, which was done precisely on midnight on the 1st of July 2004. In the lead up to the introduction of the baby bonus, people were asked, would it be possible that people might move the timing of their child's birth to get the $3,000? The response was, oh no, no one would do that in response to incentives. Joshua Gans and I looked at the data. We had 30 years worth of daily birth data. We found that the #1 birthday over that period was the 1st of July 2004, the day of the introduction of the baby bonus. We estimated about 1,000 births were moved from June into July to qualify for the bonus. So incentives can sometimes surprise even smart policymakers.
OK, we'll talk about what the implications are in all of this for smart policymakers, but just explain, why would the month that you're born in affect your success as an elite athlete?
Well, let's imagine two children, one that's born just before the cut-off for a school sport and one that's born just afterwards. The one that's born just before the cut-off will be the youngest child in the sporting team. They will struggle to get to the ball, maybe they won't score as many goals or tries or baskets. The one born just after the cut-off, though, will be one of the biggest kids in the school sportings team. And if school sports coaches lavish praise on success, then you'll see that by the time you get to selecting the national team, that the one born the month after the cut-off will do better. And empirically, that's exactly what you see. The cut-off for youth rugby leagues, 1st of January, and there's twice as many first-grade players with January or December than December birth dates. The cut-off for youth soccer these days is the 1st of August. There's twice as many youth soccer players, twice as many Socceroos and Matildas born in August compared to July. Since I had my birthday yesterday, it means I have no excuse for not playing for the Socceroos.
I was going to say there's going to be lots of little kids with lots of excuses this weekend. Just a final example, and then we'll make it mean something in terms of policy. And this is the one that I really don't understand. I would have thought that the success or otherwise of a rock band would depend entirely on the quality of their music. This is not so.
Well, there's a couple of kinds of creative sparks. One is what economists have called conceptualists, who are driven by a single big idea. The other is experimentalists, who tend to reflect life and whose work evolves. As conceptualists, think of a band like a band like AC/DC, which has a single bold style and does its best work in the 20s, or Silverchair, which is putting out great successes at top album
do
in
keep
15.
going, but the idea that AC/DC even had one big idea I would take issue with. But press on with your
argument. Look, that's stadium rock dynamics. I mean, AC/DC is probably the most internationally influential Australian band.
If you say so, sir.
But then look at other bands which have which have evolved over time. So Midnight Oil starts as a surfy band. They evolve entirely into a sort of social justice band touring Indigenous Australia. And they get better through their career. Or Nick Cave, who's just had his first #1 record at the age of 55. So that's the experimentalist style that, like a good wine, improves over age, as distinct from the conceptualist style, one big idea, flash in the pan in their teens or 20s, but tend to fade after that.
Andrew, Andrew, can I
Go
just
on,
ask you a
Patricia.
question? Is it true that you provide in your book, which I find hilarious, dating tips?
I confess that it is, Patricia. This is particularly ironic given that the research from this has all been done as a happily married father of three. But I do think it helps to expand the notion of economics as being a science that isn't just about the gold price and the exchange rate, but actually has some tips for everyday life. So,
Andrew, oh, sorry.
economists think of marriage as what we call an optimal stopping problem. There's no perfect match out there. It's about getting more information about others and about you. And at some point, with limited information, without having dated all the people you might date, you're probably better to settle down. So it's probably not optimal to only date one person, but it's also probably not optimal to date throughout your life.
Let's hope your wife's not watching. Just a very quick question from David here and a quick answer from you,
Andrew, I've got to ask, how is all of this relevant to your day job?
Yep.
What are the policy applications, if any, we should be looking for
Just briefly,
from
Buick.
these observations?
David, this is first and foremost not a policy book. It stemmed from my desire to get more enrolments in high school and university economics. I think economics is a great toolkit for understanding the world of policy, but also for looking at everything from poverty to crime, from music to sport, to thinking about how to lose weight and find a lover.
Okay. It sounds like a fun read, The Economics of Just About Everything. It's an ambitious title. Thank you so much for being our guests, Andrew Lee.
Thanks
in
so much.
Canberra.